The murder that broke Elden Ring's world began with a knife that should not have existed. Its victim was Godwyn the Golden, a prince born into an order where demigods were never supposed to die. Somebody had apparently discovered an exploit because the assassins killed him anyway. But the ritual split death in two directions. Ranni's body died while her soul survived. At that same moment, Godwyn's soul died while his body survived. It was one ritual, but it left them with opposite fates. Ranni lost her body and escaped as a spirit. Godwyn lost his spirit and was trapped inside a body that could not finish dying. Calling that trade unfair would be doing some heroic work. So grab your flask and settle in. To understand why every road in Elden Ring leads through a ruin, we need to return to the night its golden age received the one thing it had outlawed, death. And why, out of every immortal demigod, did the knives choose Godwyn? Godwyn was the son of Queen Marika and Argigachad Godfrey, the first Elden Lord. He was the golden prince of a golden age, the family favorite before the family became a collection of boss fights. He was also a warrior. When the ancient dragon Fortissax reached Landel and war reached the capital, Godwyn confronted the dragon Fortissax and defeated him. Then Godwyn did something unusually sensible for this family. He spared his enemy. By demigod standards, that is basically emotional maturity. Fortissax became his closest companion, and their friendship helped end the war and establish the ancient dragon cult. That matters, because Godwyn's final enemy would offer no such mercy. It would arrive without warning, carrying a power his mother had removed from the order of the world. When Marika founded the Golden Order, she took the Rune of Death out of the Elden Ring. It became known as Destined Death, the fated end that could kill even a demigod. Death still appeared in other forms, but that final, ordained death no longer governed Marika's immortal family. Marika gave that rune to her shadow, Malekith, and ordered him to seal it inside his blade. Every demigod feared him because he carried the only death that still applied to them. Malekith is basically a walking maximum security vault. Excellent system. Tiny problem, Ranni found the one key nobody was supposed to have. The thief was our waifu moon witch, Ranni, daughter of Renala and Radagon. She was an Empyrean, which meant the Two Fingers had shortlisted her for the position of future god without bothering to ask if she wanted the job. The Golden Order called that an honor. Ranni saw the fine print. Cosmic management would control her body, her future, and probably every meeting on her calendar. She wanted out. Ranni found an escape, but it came with a brutal condition. She could kill her Empyrean body and preserve her spirit only if another demigod died at the same moment. Honestly, that sounds less like an escape plan and more like the universe's worst legal loophole. More precisely, someone else's spirit had to die while her body died. The ritual would not erase the cost, it would transfer half of death to somebody who had never agreed to pay. Ranni stole a fragment of the Rune of Death from Malekith and used a fearsome rite to forge the god-slaying black knives. She later confesses to those two acts plainly. What she never confesses is choosing Godwyn, or controlling every part of the conspiracy. The theft changed Malekith forever. After failing once, he bound the blade and its rune into his own flesh so nobody could steal death again. The Guardian, who terrified every demigod, responded to one security breach by installing the lock directly into himself. A little extreme, but undeniably committed. Ranni now had the only weapons that could kill a demigod. What she still needed was somebody capable of getting close enough to use them. Time to assemble the Lands Between's most terrifying stealth build. Every assassin who carried out the Night of Black Knives was a woman. They were led by Alecto, and among them was her daughter, Tiche. This was not an army, it was a small crew built for one impossible kill. On a bitter night during the Golden Age, they entered Leyndell beneath concealing veils. Their silver armor made no sound, their bodies disappeared from sight, and their entire build had invested every point into stealth. They closed around Godwyn and held the Golden Prince in place. Then, the Black Knives carved the curse mark of death into his flesh. The first recorded death of a demigod was not a duel or a glorious last stand, it was an execution. The game never explains why this famous dragon slayer could not stop them. Silent armor, invisible attackers, and several blades provide the simplest answer. This was not a boss fight. It was a coordinated gank.
Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man?
Once the deed was done, the Black Knives fled Leyndell. Tiche was killed protecting her mother during their escape. One short item description gives us the entire human cost of the operation. Alecto survived. Tiche did not. And while the assassins scattered, the mark they had carved into Godwyn revealed that this had never been an ordinary murder, but the killer's exact origin is deliberately uncertain. Rogier calls them scions of the Eternal City, while the Black Knifehood says they were rumored to be Newman with close ties to Marika herself. Their group resume was basically one line, experienced in rebellion. But keep an eye on the word rumored. Elden Ring puts the Marika connection on screen, adds allegedly in tiny legal text, and walks away. The assassins may have been her kin, the game never says they followed her orders. The curse mark should have formed a complete circle. Instead, it split into two half wheels because the ritual had processed one death across two demigods. Even forbidden magic apparently supports split. At the Divine Tower of Liurnia, we find Ranni's dead Empyrean flesh carrying one half of the centipede-shaped mark. Her body had logged off, her spirit stayed online, and later moved into a doll modeled on her mysterious mentor. In Leyndell, the other half of the ritual struck Godwyn. His spirit died, but his body remained alive. Ranni discarded the body that bound her. Godwyn lost the soul that made his body his own. That is why Godwyn was more than a political victim. Ranni's escape came with the worst terms and conditions in the lands between. Another spirit had to die. Whatever the hidden reason for choosing him, Godwyn became the one forced to pay that fee. Why him? The game never answers. Ranni admits stealing death and forging the knives, yet she never explains why the assassins chose Godwyn. There are theories involving marriage, Marika, the Eternal Cities, and revenge against the Golden Order. The lore community has enough red string on this corkboard to restrain Radahn, but none of those theories closes the case. Ranni's plan worked. She escaped the fate chosen for her. And in Elden Ring, a plan working perfectly is usually when the real disaster begins, because Godwyn's half of death kept going. Godwyn's soulless body was given an Erdtree burial, deep beneath the capital. Instead of returning cleanly to the Erdtree, it began to change. His body grew through the roots into the Prince of Death, enormous, pale, and horribly alive. Deathroot spread from him through the underground network and surfaced across the lands between. Growths carrying the same deathly likeness appeared far from the capital, as though the corpse were learning to open new entrances into the world. Wherever Deathroot appeared, the dead stopped behaving properly. Skeletons ignored the standard, "Please remain dead" policy and climbed back out, trapped between life and the destined death removed from the order. Fortissax, the dragon Godwyn once spared, fought against the corruption inside his companion. He struggled long and hard, but death infected him too. The dragon the player eventually meets is Lich Dragon Fortissax. Godwyn's mercy returned to him as one final act of loyalty, and even that was consumed. The prince who ended a dragon war became the source of a war against death itself. Sorcerer Rogier calls Godwyn's murder the catalyst. The game's opening places his death beside Marika being driven to the brink, but it never gives us her exact motive or a complete chain of cause and effect. The Elden Ring was later shattered, Marika disappeared, and her children fought over the great runes in the war known simply as the Shattering. The Knight did not single-handedly cause every disaster that followed. Elden Ring leaves too many motives unresolved for that, but it broke the Age's central promise that Marika's order could keep death under control. Once an immortal prince could die, the Golden Order no longer looked eternal. Its immortality system had entered early access, and Godwyn had discovered the worst bug, dying incorrectly and poisoning the world without ever leaving it. The assassins received no victory parade and no golden medals. Whatever escape plan they had fell apart almost immediately. They scattered into tombs, prisons, and forgotten places, then slowly disappeared from history. Alecto ended up imprisoned inside an Evergal on the Moonlight Altar, reached through Ranni's quest. Defeating the mother gives the player the spirit ashes of the daughter who died saving her. Mother and daughter are reunited only in the player's inventory. The location invites suspicion, but the game never identifies Alecto's jailer. Much later, dead Black Knife assassins appear around two of Ranni's closest allies, Blade and the giant blacksmith E.G. The scene strongly suggests the old alliance ended violently, but it does not tell us who sent them or precisely what happened, but their motive is not stated, and the evidence does not prove that Ranni ordered a purge. By this point, the alliance from the Knight has collapsed. Exactly who betrayed whom remains uncertain. One wounded assassin appears to have retreated into the Death-touched catacombs, a tomb already infected by Deathroot. She begins the fight grievously injured, waiting beside the consequence of the crime that shaped her life. This is what remains of the conspiracy: a dead daughter, an imprisoned mother, wounded assassins in forgotten rooms, and a princess who escaped into a new body. Zero clean endings, extremely on brand. Deep in the deep-root depths, Godwyn still occupies the posture of his death, as though the assassins who held him have never released their grip. His body has become a landscape. His face has warped beyond recognition. His corruption has reached distant graves, and the friend who tried to save him has become another monster beside him. Directly beneath his throne lie the ruins of a nameless, eternal city. If Rogier was right about the assassin's origin, then the victim and the people who killed him ended up in the same grave. Ranni obtained the freedom she wanted. The Golden Order lost its claim to eternity. The Black Knives vanished into prisons and catacombs, and Godwyn remained neither alive in the old sense nor permitted to die. The Knight of Black Knives succeeded at its immediate purpose. That may be the most frightening part. The plan worked, and its success created a catastrophe nobody involved appears to have understood. We know who forged the knives. We know what Ranni wanted. We know what the assassins did. What Elden Ring still hides is why Godwyn had to be the one beneath them. And whether someone else stood beside or even above Ranni, the Black Knife print says, the ritual hides the truth of the conspiracy. Centuries later, with Godwyn still dying beneath the Erdtree, it continues to do exactly that. If you want more stories from the lands between, park your tiny chibi tarnish beside the grace and subscribe. There are plenty of ruins left, and every one of them started as somebody's absolutely flawless plan.